Hello students, this is teacher Nirmala. We'll be teaching you Social Science 1 for this academic year. The first topic in your textbook for this year is the French Revolution. Before we begin this topic, it is very essential for us as students to know what is a revolution. A revolution is a change. What kind of a change do we talk about when we speak of a revolution? A revolution could be a political change in society. It could be a social change, or it could also be a change in the ways and means of production. In this particular topic, we will understand a social change that took place in France during the 18th century. France was ruled during the 18th century by the Bourbon monarchy, or we would call it the Bourbon dynasty. In 1774, Louis XVI ascended the throne of France, meaning he became the King of France. When he became the King of France, the Treasury of France was empty. That means France, the government of France, had no money at all. They were bankrupt. And this happened because France fought many wars and used a lot of money from its treasury to fight these wars. Since the French treasury was empty, the King of France wanted to accumulate money to fill the treasury. At this time, France, or the French society, was divided into 3 estates. That means there were 3 types of groups of people who lived in France. The first estate or the first group was known as the clergy. That means the priest or the religious, we could call them. The second estate comprised of the nobility. That is, all the people who belonged to the noble family, the rich families. And the third estate comprised of all the middle class people. These people were usually professionals like lawyers, teachers, doctors, artisans, merchants, and even farmers. The first 2 estates, that is the clergy and the nobility, were the most privileged classes in France. They did not have to pay any tax to the French government. The King of France collected the taxes only from the members of the third estate. So the members of the third estate were burdened with the problem of paying taxes to the government. The clergy and the nobility did the work of collecting the taxes for the king. The clergy collected a tax called the tithe from agricultural producers. When the third estate realized that paying of taxes was a great burden to them, they decided to revolt against the King of France. The members of the third estate were inspired by some great philosophers of France. There were three very eminent philosophers. One among them was John Locke. The second one was Rousseau, who wrote about the social contract. John Locke wrote against absolute monarchy. And the third one was Montesquieu, who wrote on the separation of powers. That means Montesquieu said that the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary